During my summers, college, and as an undergraduate, I worked at a place called Philmont. Now, Philmont is a Boy Scout camp. It's in northern New Mexico, and it's the second largest youth camp in the world. 214 square miles, or 140,000 acres. So this is a very large camp. And it hosted about, at the time I was working there, about 40,000 scouts from around the world would come to Philmont over the summer. And the Philmont program, not like the standard camp, but you would come, you would hike on a trail, and you would hike for 8 days throughout the wilderness there in the mountains of northern New Mexico, going from camp to camp, and there would be programs, and the camp mostly had to do with the westward expansion, how the logging industry, mining industry, things like this, and there was two gold mines on the place. So they were petered out by this time, but you could actually camp for gold, and every once in a while you'd find a weekly flag here or there. But it was a great place to work. It was a great place for the summers. Now, in 1979, when I was in high school, between my junior and senior in high school, I had gone to Philmont as a scout. I had gone on one of these treks and one of these campouts in the wilderness. So in my summers in college, when I came back in 1981, my first year I worked at the food service. I was at the dining hall. The second 2 years, my job was that of a ranger. Now, what a Philmont ranger did was kind of first of all, one of the things we did, we were the fire department, we were the search and rescue teams, we did trail maintenance, trail construction around the camp to keep it going. As you can imagine, with 40,000 kids a year, there's a lot of work to be done to make sure the camp can continue to function in a manner. But the main duty of the ranger was to be a guide. The main duty of the ranger was when these crews came in from wherever they went around the country to help them check in, make sure they had all their paperwork in order, make sure they had the supplies they needed, the tents, the food, the rain gear, etc. And then to go with them the first 2 nights that are on the trail, to make sure that they knew how to camp, they knew how to navigate, so they would be able to survive. They could read the maps, they could have safe campfires, they knew how to get help if they were in trouble, they knew how to what to do about the animals that were there. Philmont had a lot of bears, but bears were kind of used to people. Black bear species is actually a rather docile species. They're really not vicious or anything like that. So the black bears were not a problem. The problem were what we call mini bears, chipmunks. Those would get in everything. They would have your food and all that. So we had to figure out how to do with mini bears. Now, back when I was there in the early 80s, they were first coming out with camp stoves. We mostly did cooking on open fires, but that was kind of the advent of the camp stove that was just beginning to become popular. This is a single burner Coleman stove. It's liquid fueled, and this is the second version of the stove. And you notice the second version because it has little legs that you can set them out. But we used to call this thing affectionately the brown bomb. There was an older version that was painted green, and they call it the green bomb. Now, it's not that they would explode, it's that if you're refueling them when they were hot, and you forgot to set this lever correctly, they would spew out fuel. And so you'd end up with the stove sitting in a puddle of burning fuel. And they, like I said, they wouldn't explode, but they would do this flare up real bad. And so one of the things how do you put it out? Well, you can't pour water in it because the liquid fuel was lighter, so it would go everything. You couldn't blow it out. I learned the hard way, and by the way, it takes about 3 weeks for your eyebrows to grow back. But you had to throw a pot over it to smother it. So we had this. So this is my ground bomb. This is my is an early version of backpack stove. They've improved them considerably